各位观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看 JxJ 论坛，由我 Jimmy 马健，由我们的好朋友 Jim Noteware 为我们去讨论这个礼拜的事。Jim, how are you?
Hello, Jimmy.
I know you're looking forward to this first trip since this mess from 2 years ago. This for the past 2 years, our little pandemic. Finally, you get to get out of the country and go. Where are you going again?
I'm going to Europe. I'm going to spend most of the time in Italy.
The best place to be. I miss Italy. You know, we were planning a trip this spring to go. We would have had to go last week, but we ended up not going because just too much stuff to catch up. So I'm very envious. I'm sure you'll eat a lot of good truffles and good pasta and see a lot of art.
Yeah, we're going to Florence for 2 days. And,
beautiful.
Then we're going to an international cycling center. And my wife and I are avid cyclists.
Every time I speak with you, something new comes up. You never cease to amaze. Avid cyclist, okay. And will you be cycling out there on the coast?
Yeah, it's 7 days in a row. Yeah.
Cycling?
Yeah.
Well, that is just very, very, it's a healthy lifestyle and it's fun and it's something that is just smart. This is the best time to be in Europe in the springtime on the coast. It's going to be gorgeous out there.
Yeah. It's on the Adriatic coast. It's just south of Venice.
Oh my goodness. Venice is one of my favorite cities, and I know that is sinking. So the last time I was there was 2019, right before COVID. The spring before COVID. So it was 3 years now.
Yeah.
Never forgot. Supposedly it's a good time to be in Europe because a lot of international travelers are not allowed yet. So you don't have a lot of lines, and it's a good time.
Italy is one of the few countries that's open.
So. That's right. So it's open, but for example, Asian countries are still not allowed to be out. A lot of Americans are not there yet. So it's a good time to be there. It's funny. I have quite a few friends that are in Europe in the past few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all the good stuff going on in Europe aside, does it concern you at all with the war going on over there?
Well, one of my close friends is going to Europe. Mr. Biden's going over there tomorrow.
Show and tell. No intel.
Yeah,
we've been covering the invasion, the war in the past 4 weeks now. This is week 5, and last week we had a very lively discussion that we are completely on opposite ends of the spectrum, which we should be. Now, what is your take now after another week of this stalemate, where there is nothing has changed?
Well, I'm not sure nothing has changed. I think all perspectives that we've shared, or most people are looking at, are becoming even more pronounced. The trends are becoming more defined, more marked, if you will. I think the Ukrainian defenses are strong. I mean, they're getting worn down. Everybody is taking a lot of punishment, and the cities are gradually getting turned into rubble, and more people are getting hurt and killed. I think many more of the Russian military mistakes are becoming apparent and noticed. I think all of the sanctions are apparently taking bigger bites now out of the Russian economy. The confusion over what's going on with respect to China is continuing. I'm not sure that's any better defined than it was. I think the position of NATO is getting ever harder. People are becoming more and more concerned. We're getting closer to the end game, whatever that is. The possibility of escalation, the uncertainty of where this is all going to lead is becoming more concern to more people. So,
I'm actually very taken by surprise, and in a way, it's very good for us. For everyone else that is not Russian, is that how they have completely failed in their strategic, their military operations. There's no central commander. Even from outside observers, of course, we don't know the Russian media or anything, there's not going to confirm anything. But from what our retired generals and from what the world's military strategists have observed is that they do not have a coordinated effort or a central command, and their supply lines are broken down, and they're making very juvenile errors. And this showcases that what we think is a paper tiger. That's what literally people are calling it, a paper tiger.
Yeah.
And whatever Putin is, whatever reality he creates for himself, or whatever they're spinning, which is that they have to do this, whatnot, it just showcases that they're not the mighty USSR as before. They sent out, with Syria and with their, what is it, in 2014, they, the past few excursions they've had is not full scale invasion like this, and this really exposed their weakness.
Right. I think there's a huge silver lining in this for the United States. I mentioned it briefly last week, and that is, I think Russia is going to lose its place on the world stage. People are going to say you played your hand and you lost. I think your term "paper tiger" is a very good one, Jimmy. We no longer fear you, and there's going to be a huge amount of setback. Be interesting to watch what happens with the domestic politics within Russia, whether they turn more inward or whether they want to become more like the West. And I think for most of the population, Moscow and West is going to increasingly want to look West. The old communist manifesto, if you will, and the power structure of Russia have failed. And the pathway out for prosperity, Russia has a huge demographic problem they're going to have to start dealing with too. So,
the wall divide is wider and wider. The Kremlin has doled out riches and wealth to the few select oligarchs, and I mean, it's happening all over the world, right? Is when young people don't see a future, and there's going to be revolution. I don't want to see any more bloodshed, but look, I know from different perspectives and different media outlets, we see it differently. To a lot of people, probably half of the world thinks that Russia is winning, and that this war, I mean, is brutal, right? Because we don't know the losses that the Russian military has incurred. Either way, the numbers are very high. But to be fair, we do have to realize that we did not think Ukrainian forces will last as long, or perhaps United States intelligence was right. Maybe that's why we didn't have to do much, because we knew this would happen. But either way, this showcased their weakness. But it doesn't take away the fact that a lot of, it's Ukrainian cities being destroyed and innocent citizens are being killed. And we still don't know the full scale of the damage. And whether this will lead to moving inwards or outwards, as you said, in Russia, we shall see. But I don't know if you saw, I was not able to see it in any major media outlets here in the United States or in the West, but Putin had a pretty large rally last week. Did you see that? 50,000 people showed up.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So you want to call it propaganda, which it is, but
it looked like our Super Bowl halftime.
Yeah, but it's funny because, we have to realize Russia is huge, and there's different voices in there too. Just like if let's say going to Ukraine, let's say if we're going to send troops there and risk American lives, there are people that supports that, and there are, of course, people that are against that. And what's really interesting or concerns me is, I mentioned it a few weeks ago. Usually, when there's international conflict, when there's war, no matter what differences Americans have, we're united in that, in promoting freedom against the Iron Current or the former Soviet bloc. Mm-hmm. But this time, especially from my conservative friends, there's a lot of dissent supporting Putin and justifying his actions, and that we should leave him alone, that we should maintain this, maintain our sovereignty by staying in our lane. And this is prevalent now. I'm not saying this is from Fox News or from the media. This is from the people that I know. Perhaps it's a smaller sample size, but quite a few has kind of changed their tune a little bit and seeing that, hey, this is none of our business. We don't need to get into this dealing with the European Union or with Russia. Let them handle their things, because, and they're still, of course, criticizing the White House for whatever they're doing or not doing. But this is a very unique twist that has not happened before. Have you heard this sentiment?
Well, I've heard a little bit about it. I'm actually seeing things go the other way. There are some what I'll call conservative spokesmen who want very little, if anything, to do with the Ukrainian position. They want the U.S. to stay totally out of it, not even exercise its might through NATO. One of the most vociferous proponents of that idea is Tucker Carlson, but I don't see that attitude catching on throughout the mainstream America. I think most Americans are totally sickened by what they see on this and are saying we should do as much as possible. And if there's a criticism, it's that we're doing too little, too late. Give them the MiGs. Let them fight it out in the air. They know how to fly those planes. Help them out. Strengthen the supply lines. Yes, don't send our active troops boots on the ground or boots in the air, either one, but give them the equipment. So I think it's actually the Russian incursion has unified NATO, but I think it's actually unifying Americans around some of this. And the other thing, which as a businessman, as a Texan, as a free market proponent, I'm really glad that it is forcing the hand on the energy policy, particularly on international oil and gas economics.
That is very important. We should delve more into this because we've never really gotten in depth in how you view this as. To me, there's also, I mean, I sent you an article last week regarding how Saudi Arabia is now considering using the yuan as a way to trade oil. That is not good for us.
No, it's not good for us. And the Wall Street Journal had a very good editorial on exactly that subject a few days ago last week. And basically their theory is the reason Saudi Arabia is doing that is a direct smack back at Biden for Biden supporting Iran. The Saudis and the Iranians are arch enemies, arch rivals, have been for a very long time. And the Saudis are very unhappy with the U.S. chasing.
Yes, but this is the dilemma, right? This is why I say this political divide has changed our outlook. What Biden is doing represents the United States' interest, right? We have to get our Iran so we could sanction Russia. But by doing so, we're not keeping our word with Saudi, which in turn causes Saudi to use the yuan, which will hurt our energy sector deeply. It will hurt our entire operation. I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's a matter of how relative. I mean, I don't think it's going to be all that consequential, but it's not a good move for the United States. We can debate how much.
But I mean, if he doesn't make this move, how do we stop the dependence on Russian oil? I mean, Iran was always an out, even though Iran, we also listed Iran as a terroristic organization in their country. And, we've had a lot of military skirmish with them. My point is that neither or, I mean, we have many enemies. Some of these enemies are against each other. Some of them are for. So no matter who's in the White House, no matter what they do, there's going to be controversy. Does it make sense?
Well, sure. But that Iranian deal and the way that they're pursuing it is just awful for the U.S. Just awful. And they're enlisting Russia as a mediator. I mean, it goes from bad to worse. How can you be doing everything to sanction Russia because of the Ukrainian behavior and then use them as an intermediary to help us solve a problem that we should never have our hands on at all? It's just beyond belief. Just beyond belief.
I have many friends from the Middle East that are also very angry, or at least they think this is a farce, what we're doing here, because there's the reports floating around that Israel has offered to broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, and that in Jerusalem will be a good place. The fact that Zelensky is of Jewish descent. So to my Middle Eastern friends, especially my Arabic friends, they think this is a farce because what they feel about this. I mean, the Middle East has been a powder keg for how many how many centuries now?
Oh yeah, so, and I'm happy to let them fight it out.
Good Lord, what do we do? No matter which way you go, is a dead end.
You know what they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, no, the enemy of my enemy still could be my enemy. And you never know who your friends and enemies actually are. And everything is so intertwined for good and for not.
We know
so
who's
good.
not our enemies, the people that mutually profit and benefit from our dominance, which is EU and the Western nations, France, England, Australia. I mean, these are countries Japan, these are countries that are part of our pact that depends on us, that we control directly, essentially. Mm-hmm. I mean, we crippled Japan's economy in the 90s, literally single-handedly, to make sure they don't continue to grow. We make sure that whether it's Brexit or NATO or EU or Australia's defense, we supply Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Philippines with their, we make a lot of money from our arms sales. And that's a big part of the economy. We make a lot of money from our oil, from our technology. I mean, in the end these are all our customers or clients. We have to, they depend on us. So they're not our enemies, right?
They actually do. And even our enemies depend on us. The story of the Aeroflot right now, pretty soon, Russia won't even be able to fly its own domestic flights, because Aeroflot will run out of spare parts, and neither Boeing nor Airbus will supply them. No,
they won't. And, and Russia is starting to get off internet. They're starting to use Telegram more. Now they regret. In a way, though, this validates what China has been doing a long time. China was criticized for a long time for not allowing Facebook or Google to get into the country to develop their domestic equivalents. And this proved that they were right, because if there was any conflict, if Russia is crippled, because everyone depended on Facebook and Google and whatever UX technology. And we try to do the same thing to protect our homegrown business. We're trying to eliminate unfair state-sponsored competition, because in our country it's free market, no doubt. But in Russia and China, there's a lot of state interference. But then this validates what they're doing. So I guess all that goes back. I don't think China and U.S. will ever get to this point, because China is our number one customer and we're their number one customer. Yeah. And all the posturing, all the diplomatic, how do I say this? Just flexing, right? I don't, because even now, China, think about this. 30 years ago, China would obviously quickly stood by Russia's side and criticized them. China has not. And China has actually done things to stay in the middle purposely, to remain or appear neutral, whether they are or not, because they know it doesn't benefit them, right? To be honest, does it really benefit us, whether Ukraine or Russia? Well, based on humanitarian reasons, of course, but purely from a military or strategic. This shows that Russia is, they're weak. This is going to reshuffle the balance of power. Who else left is going to sit there and say, except for Belarus or countries that are right next door, no one's going to sit there and say, okay, well, Russia's strong. Let me be more friendly toward them and sign more treaties with them. Nobody will say that. Now they're like, okay, yeah, everyone needs to go to the West now. Yeah, everyone needs to go to the West. And when you think of the amount of money that we all collectively spend on quote defense, back to your point of making profits off of this, it's a huge economic drag. And if Russia weren't there sowing mischief, not only in Eastern Europe, but throughout the Middle East,
everybody's guard could maybe come down a little bit, and we can trade more and fight less. That's one of the things I'm hoping for.
Jim, we always say that. We always hope that's the case. But the fact is, we discussed this a month ago. Remember, I sent you some articles regarding the military-industrial complex.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our scholars here, what's great about this country is that we have different voices, and that by criticizing our country's policies, we're not going to be labeled as unpatriotic. We're not going to be exiled or go to Siberia, because that's how we could self-internal audit our own people, is by saying that we have an military-industrial complex. We interfere. There's money to be made, and that causes a lot of problems when profits evolved. So I don't really think we will ever stop that. See, even after USSR, the Iron Curtain came down, in the last 30 years, we really don't have one major enemy, but yet military spending keeps going up, because we need to create conflict. If there is no conflict, then who are we going to sell to? And by them squabbling and having war or having bloodshed, it keeps them, like you said, away from building their country and improving commerce. So that makes it better for us. I mean, this is not my point, my perspective. This is basic economics. The numbers don't lie. So for my kids, for my future generation, I would say that it's beneficial for us to keep it up. I mean, we have to. We've always been doing that, because there's no such thing as true peace. That where are all these? Who's Boeing going to sell to? Who are we Halliburton going to advise? And where is our arms dealers going to survive?
Yeah, I know Boeing's big market is civilian aircraft, and Halliburton is civilian energy. But we're going to need energy all over the place. So
look, I'm just telling you that we try to tell ourselves that everything we do is to promote peace and to promote our ideology of democracy and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some countries that cannot handle this. Some of their cultures, we keep imposing. We impose. How do I say this? It doesn't work. I mean, when are we going to learn from Vietnam, from Korea, from Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan? When are we going to learn? So even now with Afghanistan, what does this really mean? We've been telling them to go to NATO, telling them that we will support them. And now it came true, and we're not at all. I mean, it turned out that they're stronger than we thought, but did we really know this? My question is, we told our ally, they're a nation, they're in the United Nations. Ukraine is a country. Mm-hmm. Unlike Taiwan, Taiwan's not a country. So if we let this happen to Ukraine, then where's our standing? The fact that Ukraine can hold, the fact that Russia is a failure, a paper tiger, doesn't take away the fact that we did not do what we promised. We, as in our foreign policy.
What do you mean?
For the past 30 years, we've been we're being supporting and of course we encourage to go to the West, right? We want Ukraine to join NATO. We want Ukraine to be part of the EU, to be the democracy, to have freedom, to have direct votes. And they did all that. And Russia's unhappy. And we know they're going to attack. We've been warning Ukraine for months, for years. Started from Crimea, we didn't do anything when Crimea happened. And now Russia attacked. And part of the United Nations, when you join the United Nations as a country, you have you're a sovereign state. Mm-hmm. I guess this goes to Taiwan, right? If Ukraine could be attacked by Russia without any repercussion, and Ukraine is an actual country, Taiwan is not in the United Nations. Taiwan is not recognized. Who will stop China? We tell Taiwan we will.
The only one that's capable of doing that is the U.S. Korea can't. It won't.
No, Korea is not going to. No, Japan, Korea has nothing to do with this.
It won't. The only one it could get a little assistance from Australia. No, they are not. The only friend that Taiwan really can count on is the United States.
But is the United States truly a friend? Because Ukrainians do not think the United States is a friend anymore. I assure you they don't. We're not, because we did not do what we said we would.
No, I don't. I don't know that U.S. ever guaranteed. Maybe it did guaranteed Ukraine safety and security as if it were a member of NATO. It wanted to be a member of NATO, but many NATO members did not want it in. And the reason they didn't want it in is because then they could invoke Article 5. And then all the West is going to get drawn in. And that's one of the benefits, a silver lining. I think Putin's ambitions have to be curtailed because he doesn't have the ability to go any further anymore. And that's the main reason for NATO is to prevent Russian aggression. So,
but Jim, like I said, my friends here, red-blooded, patriotic Americans. Some of them most of them have worked in the energy sector. Some of them have been to Middle East to work during the Iraq War. A couple of them, they're very stout. They're Texans, born and bred Texans, generations. And these are my buddies that surprise me the most, that tells me that, hey, it's not China and Putin is not sending delegations to Mexico or Canada and asking them to join a socialist NATO. They're not the ones coming here to set up Assad defense systems. They're not promoting their ideology and telling the democracy in Canada to become socialist. We're the ones that went there, to their backyard, to their border. So they're telling me that they're not supporting Putin, but they understand why he's doing this, and that we are the aggressor, not him, and that Ukraine was duped and sacrificed their sovereignty to be a pawn in the game of two superpowers. I can't really adjust. And of course, they criticize the White House greatly because it's the dereliction of there is no leadership right now. Or maybe to us, maybe they knew all along this would happen. But either way, this is not what it used to be. Before, it would be very simple. Hey, Putin is black and white, right? It's very simple, good and evil. But now it's a gray area. Who's the aggressor? Who's not? I'm just posing these questions to you as they have told me. This doesn't mean that I know that I want peace, but at what cost? Not at American lives. We're not supporting Ukraine at all, and we know that. You know that. We could blame this on Biden. But if another president is a different party in the White House, would the policy be different? Do we really want to be dragged in?
No. I think the prohibition of actually providing, quote, boots on the ground and boots in the air. I think any American president today would hold to that. I don't think any American president would say, let's go send our young men and women in to fight Ukraine's battles. No, I don't think that would change.
But, early in the show, you said that with this war, hopefully we'll see whether Russia turns inward, outward. But we know that a lot of countries that are watching are now going to turn toward the West more, seeing how weak Russia is. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. But by doing that, isn't that proves my point of that we do want people to come to the West, but yet when there is aggression or invasion from their neighboring countries that are stronger than them, yet we do not provide assistance. We want them to have this democracy, to the ideology, but when something happens, we don't honor our United Nations Pact or NATO Pact, or like I said.
Whoa! I think we have been giving Ukraine a tremendous amount, directly and indirectly. We just haven't provided combat troops, because if we provided combat troops everywhere, anytime there was a bad, we would be the world's policeman. And everybody would cease taking care of themselves.
We're not even providing planes to them. We asked Poland to go through Poland, and even Poland rejected them. Zelensky said it very clearly, right? He's begging for help, but they're not.
If there were a different president, I think we would have a different answer.
Okay, so you see what goes back to this political divide again, right? That's what I said our problem is. Because if it's a different party in the White House, maybe the opposition will say this president is no good and this is what causes. Like I said, either way, left or right, is going to be criticized. Why can't we have a united front like before? This political divide is the problem. Jim, I hate to say this. Some people do not deserve too much freedom. I know that sounds crazy, but do you know what? I think you understand what I'm saying.
No, I do.
You know what I mean? You cannot let the patients run the asylum.
No.
Either way, it's distressing because it's dragged out to week 5, and it's starting to impact all of us. With the world prices, with inflation, how much it costs, with this uncertainty, our economy. Excuse me.
I think the oil prices and the inflation generally, the war has a little bit to do with it, but not much.
No, you're right. It was long overdue, though. Inflation is many administrations.
Self-destructive behavior on our part.
But not just by this administration. I mean, every president has contributed to this in the last 25, 30 years.
It has. Yeah, okay. But it's accelerated in the last year. But anyway.
You said many times we keep kicking the can for years. For 2 years of the show, you said it from the beginning. We keep kicking the can down the road. And this is what's going to happen. Someone's going to have to pay sooner or later.
Right. Oh, I thought that President Trump's tax change in 2017 left a lot to be desired. But even if the tax cuts were beneficial economically, he didn't go all the way and bring back spending. So what happened at the Trump administration is we were redlined with very aggressive fiscal policy and very aggressive monetary policy. Absolutely. And that set the stage. Yeah, and you can talk about the COVID and all of that. We just poured money into the COVID.
He has a very good chance of winning again. So in 6 years, we will revisit. Let's see if we're in a better place or not. We could always, technology is a good thing. We could pull up these shows and we could rewatch them and see how foolish I was, or both of us predicting anything. It's hard. So, Jim, I really hope you have a great trip. I know it's been difficult 2 years, but we appreciate you. So enjoy yourselves, and we will see you the week after.
2 weeks. Great. Thank you, Jimmy.
Have a safe trip, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.